Bring you this now. This time last year, we were in hard lockdown. Many missed out on gathering with their loved ones. With borders closed, foreign nationals could also not visit home. Well, this Easter, though, people can move around with caution to keep the travelling to a minimum. My colleague, eNCA reporter Michael Apple, is checking out the situation on the road, and he joins us now live. Michael, how's it looking? Good morning. The president did give out that stern precaution to rather stay at home, really travel if you have to. How have South Africans responded?
Well, you come to me at the perfect time. Look at that. We were standing in an empty parking lot a few minutes ago, but thankfully the buses have arrived on schedule. And yes, the president urged South Africans, if you do not have to travel, please don't. If you do travel, please adhere to all the NPIs, the so-called non-pharmaceutical interventions, which we know work. Social distancing, wearing of masks, hand sanitizing. And, Tumelo, I've just spoken to a couple of passengers who recently traveled from Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal up to Joburg, and another couple who traveled from Umtata in the Eastern Cape up to Gauteng, and there wasn't exactly wild praise for one particular company. She did say she is going to go and complain to Intercity, as there was no hand sanitizer when getting on or off the bus, and there was also very little social distancing. Every single seat was booked. She said that the seats that she had booked online when she arrived on the bus, the bus driver said, well, just sit anywhere, and people had taken their seats and they were forced into the back, especially where you don't want to be when it's congested and there isn't much airflow. So she wasn't very happy with that, but also grumpy from spending several hours on a bus to get here. So as you can see from those visuals, South Africans are using this Easter weekend traditionally a time to move about the country, go see loved ones, take a short left, go on a bit of a getaway if you must. And if you think back to last year this time, zero inter-provincial travel, hard lockdown. One of the passengers said people are just so over it, and that everybody now has to take responsibility for themselves in terms of all these non-pharmaceutical interventions. She just thinks that the bus companies are over handing out free sanitizer. But people are taking the opportunity to travel, as you can see. And I'm happy that you came to us exactly when you did. Otherwise, I'd be standing in an empty parking lot.
Listen, Michael, the way you're talking, it sounds like you're almost going to jump on the bus as well and head over on the trip. It seems like we came right in time for you to travel as well. But, you spoke to at least some of the passengers. I'm not sure if you managed to speak to some of the drivers, even some of the transport or bus companies, as to whether they anticipate this to be a busy, weekend at all.
Haven't as yet been able to speak to some of the management. We are going to go into the office. We arrived just a short while ago, so I spoke to the passengers first. But I know that there's going to be definitely some statements put out by all the bus companies. I also saw a mail from the Shosholoza Mail, the train, saying that they are expecting increased volumes this weekend. And they are, the Shosholoza Mail at least, was saying that people can book their seats. They're encouraged to bring their own food as they don't want their staff to be handling everything that's going to various passengers. They say you will be able to buy certain blankets which will then be laundered, sanitized, washed, and then handed back. So there is definitely an anticipation of increased travel. The president announcing that the infection rate has stabilized. And of course, he's made that decision along with the National Command Council to keep us on level 1. So there is this trust and this belief that if South Africa maintains the non-pharmaceutical interventions as well as we have that got us to this point, perhaps we can miss this third wave, Tumelo.
Yeah, I mean, just before I let you go, I'm reminded that just last month, Greyhound had to shut its doors after 30 years of operation, and just seeing some of those buses leave. I mean, it might be good for business for some buses like, you know, the Inter-Cape and Intercity, as we've seen behind you. I mean, for some buses, Michael, they're having to shut down due to this hard lockdown last year where absolutely no one could travel.
Yes, I mean, this must be a massive sigh of relief to a lot of transport companies, the taxi industry, the bus companies, the airlines. The entire transport industry has been incredibly impaired. I remember doing a story at Lanseria where they were coming out of hard lockdown and they had an average of 10 passengers coming through the airport per day. I mean, that is a shockingly low figure. And if you remember, Lanseria is a privately owned entity. It's not AXA affiliated or AXA owned. So there's no state money that can go to it at all. 10 passengers a day is simply not profitable for any international airport like that. And if the buses don't run, the money doesn't come in. They still have to be maintained. So I think a massive sigh of relief for a lot of the transport companies in the country, that they can at least try to make a bit of a living. This must be one of the most profitable times of the year for them, barring the December holidays.
Indeed, Michael. But you know what, we'll be sure to check in with you just to see how those travels are going throughout the morning. That's my colleague, eNCA reporter, Micah Apple.